We put concrete around the perimeter of our house. Took 5 different loads. My wife and I, my sons did it all, except for 2 times on the big patio and the big driveway. We brought a crew in that was professional at it, and we got a better finish that way. But the reason that we did the concrete job is when we moved in here 2 years ago, they had a patio back here, brick paver, landscaping stones. It covered up, clear down to that cherry tree, and came down here with big concrete steps, and came clear up to this right up here. And 15 years ago, when my mom put it in, I thought, wow, this is really beautiful. And they did a good job. I guess I'm going to just say that for now. They did a good job. And but when we moved in, they did not build a concrete slab to put it on. So when we moved in, all the stones had settled as much as 5 inches apart, and had big gaps everywhere. The landscaping that was up here had bushes on it, and 4 or 5 medium-sized trees. The propane tank was right here, blocking a nice view coming out of the house, and it was just a mess. Weeds had grown up through the pavers down there to where we had to spray 2-3 times a year. Weeds had grown up in the mulch, and bugs and weeds we had to spray 2 or 3 times a year. It just, in 15 years, it turned from a beautiful patio landscaping creation to a mess, a very high maintenance mess. So we made the decision, rather than try to repair it, which is almost unrepairable, and because of the weed growth and how they had established themselves, it was just going to be constant maintenance. So we tore it all out and had it hauled away. So what we decided to do instead was the concrete job. And we had 5 loads brought in. We did 1 section, built the forms, prepared the base, floated the concrete, put the control joints in, and did 3 of the pours completely by ourselves. And again, 2 of the pours we had the pros come in on the nicer, bigger pieces that we wanted, and they finished it up. But we began back here in this corner. We had 16 bushes around the house. I believe we had 6 or 7 bushes back here, 3 feet high, that we had to trim. Every 2 to 3 times a summer, we had to spray the weeds that had grown up underneath them and the mulch and stuff. Nasty looking affair. And so we decided to start here with our concrete job. We put this section in 3 feet away from the house, half-inch drop on it to get the rain away from the house. And you can see where we did our basement with sealed it up from the humidity getting into the floor joist and everything. And this came out real nice. This is one of our first pours. The second section, basically we did a section here, then we filled this in. We used joint expansion material everywhere between the pours, just to make sure that the concrete had a place to expand in the summer and contract in the winter. This used to have 5 big bushes in it. It was beautiful probably when it started, but when we moved in, it was another nightmare. Nothing but weeds we had to take care of, 5 bushes we had to trim, and just bugs all over the place, nasty, dirty looking area. So we did this in concrete here too, and it turned out real nice. This section and both of these walls, when we moved in, had a green mold problem. And it was basically because these bushes and the mulch and the rain wasn't getting away, and the moisture was trapped in here. So my wife, the fine lady she is, used spick and span and cleaned these walls back here. Then we put in this concrete. Now this is a 4-foot wide sidewalk. Each turn has 30 degrees in it wherever you look, or a radius to make sure mowing is easy. I've got no 90-degree turns anywhere on this concrete job, which is very nice for mowing. But since we did the concrete job, it's been here a couple years now, there has been no green mold return. I don't know if it's the ultraviolet light reflecting off of the concrete, whether it's the moisture that's gotten away from the bushes trapping it, or the rainwater getting away on the drop of the cement, but our green mold problem has disappeared at our house. So people that's got northern exposure, vinyl siding, I'm sure everybody's seen it. And this seems to have cured that problem. Again, we did a transition step here, all our own design. You'll find that you can do anything with concrete because it's very pliable and liquid. And this is 6 inches deep. Probably on the average, we tried to at least get 5.5 inches. I imagine most of it is averaging 6 inches. A couple of things I want to point out to you that the pros do. This is what the pros do. Isn't that kind of nasty looking? If you go below this, it was all that way up and down. They did not take time to finish that. Here is what I've done. I took a 1 by or 2 by 1/4 inch thick board, and down the forms I screeded it or kind of pushed it around. Then I took a ball peen hammer and brought out the softer, nicer material. But you can see the difference here. If you hire a concrete man, you have him do that process here, and you'll have a nice edge as opposed to this crappy edge here. I wanted to point that out. We had a generator in here we had to deal with, and I made a mistake, 2 mistakes here. I poured the outside first. I blocked it up underneath and supported it, then I poured on the outside. Well, when I went to get my boards out, I was lucky to get them out because of being trapped in there. So if you do this, put your support boards out here, dig it out, support it, then dig the middle out, build your forms, and do the inside first. And another mistake I made, if you come back here, Judy, come back here. If you look at the height of this and see the relationship to the angle of these vinyl siding pieces, you'll see it's cockeyed a little bit. So when you do a job like this, step back here 15-20 feet away when you build your supports on the outside so that you can see that you're level with your vinyl. I used a level, of course that's a little rounded on top, so I missed it. But a good way to view that this is level is to look at your vinyl, stand back 20 feet, and get your support boards where everything's level, then pour your inside, and then after your inside's set up, you can take these boards away, and you're sitting on the middle, then you can pour around. Again, I use joint expansion material about everywhere I poured.
The generator used to sit on that soft pea gravel stuff.
Yeah,
too.
crappy pea gravel.
Yeah.
Weedy,
I didn't know if
dirty,
I wanted to tell
nasty.
them that or not.
Yeah. Yeah, this was all dirty and nasty back here too. Bugs all over. Just look how nice this concrete is now. It took some work and effort, but boy, every time we come out here, we're so glad that we did the perimeter of our house. I think anybody that's building a new home, instead of being told by their wife how nice bushes would look here and there, you think 15 years down the road and the heavy maintenance that's involved with that type of landscaping, you can use planters. Now look at this planter, isn't that nice? You can use again, waist high your work instead of going down on the ground and maintaining and clipping bushes. You can use big potted plants to bring your decorations around the house. Again, there's any number of things that's much easier maintenance than going with bushes and what the typical landscaping is. All that gives you is future problems. Again, 30-degree angles on here, on the outside. We have very easy mowing here. This sidewalk used to have 7 bushes, high maintenance, dirty, nasty, ugly, weed killer, spraying all the time, and high maintenance here. Our propane tank, we put concrete around it, and you've got none of the nastiness that you used to have here with bugs and weeds, and this is very easily maintained. Again, we moved the propane tank from the back there where it was kind of a nasty looking piece of equipment that you just really don't want to see that in your view. Here we moved it to the side, and it seems like it fits nice well here. We don't see it very often except when we use this nice sidewalk,
And
which
it's
is
easier for the guys to fill.
yeah. And the guy that fills it, he said he really appreciated that we were had that to where he just backs up and gets to it real quick, and he actually said thank you for putting it there. This corner here was part of our first pour we did. We're amateurs, and so we brushed and thought that we were going to get that nice little brush finish on it. Well, we kept getting stones coming up, so we brushed and brushed more. Just a word of advice: when you brush, if you've got it looking halfways right, don't try to improve things, because that's why this is so marbled looking here. We learned from this first pour that you just take a broom and you just go across it once, and whatever you got, leave it alone. Otherwise you just stir up more problems. So don't over brush or over broom when you go to put your texture in.
It's still got the nice curves.
Yeah, the radius is here. We put radiuses in ourselves here. Found material that was flexible and durable enough to handle the concrete. I can't recall what material that was at Lowe's, but it was able to curve and turn. So if a contractor says you can't put curves in, well, you can just show them this video and say, well, here, this guy is an amateur who put these radiuses in here. And when you mow, you just mow right slick as can be. No more 90 degrees backing up and weeds. Here's another nice planter. That looks twice as nice as a bush to me, and believe me, that is about 99% less maintenance than a bush will be. We continue our concrete out here. We did this section ourselves here in the front, put our radius in here, made it real nice mowing. This was done by a crew that came in. I cannot emphasize enough about control joints. I knew better, but they said, well, if you put your control joints here right in line with the old ones, it'll look much better. Well, guess what? I should have put them first one should have been about here. It's 6 foot. The next 6 foot, 6 foot. And we got a crack down there because I didn't insist on it. I knew better, but I was still talked into it by the professional crew. I wish I would have held firm and said, put them every 4 feet, you know, and I wouldn't have had that crack. But it's too late now. Even I, that knew better, fell for the professional people's supposed advice. On some of the pours, we had concrete left over, and what we did was build forms around our utility poles so we can have mow right by. Now I've created mow right by rubber pieces for my trees, but this was the inspiration for them because this was so nice to mow right by. Zero maintenance, no weed whacking, no 360-degree turn, no spraying poison. And I've used this to create a patented product called the Mow Right By pad, and you'll see those probably in the first segment of it. But we also use excess concrete around our mailboxes, mine and the neighbors. Put the bucket in there so if you ever have to put an auger in there, that concrete won't interfere with your auger if you want to replace your pole. But now you just mow right by on both of those. We'll show you up here other parts of the concrete job. This may not look like much, but if you mow 20 times a summer, we put a radius in right here. It used to be you had to come up with your mower, come up here and stop and jiggle around and go this way. I don't have any of that anymore. I come up here, I mow right by, and as if there's even nothing there. So that is where our concrete was, but I want to show you also on the control joints, a very important part of this. house was built, this is a beautiful porch. Now you'll see here they put in a control joint. These are the best concrete people in the county here. They put a control joint here, there, and there. 3 control joints. Now, hone down on that crack real close, Judy. Look what I got. I got a crack right here coming through. It's only going to get worse and worse every year. Come in and hone on this crack. This crack is getting worse every year, here and here. Hone in on this crack. This crack is going to get worse every year. All they had to do was to put twice as many control joints in here, and I bet this crack would have never showed up. This crack would have never showed up, and that crack would. So when they come in and they say, oh, you only need a control joint every 10, 11 feet up here, you tell them to pack it. You've seen this film, and you've seen what they are recommending. It's future problems. I would say, if I was doing this job again, I'd have a control joint here and here. 3 times as many control joints as what they professionally said to do. Never let them talk you into long control joints. You want them to be very, very frequent. All right. Again, on the concrete job, we've gotten rid of our green mold on the northern exposure of our house because we put the 4-foot sidewalk away and the extra patio in back. Very pleasant. I'll take 360-degree walks with my cup of coffee every morning, usually before the sun comes up so I can see it come up. At 67 years old, it's kind of a nice thing to have to see the sunrise, because sometimes you wonder if you're going to be able to see it the next day or not. But because of my Crown Landscaping Edge material over there, I now have the ability to walk barefoot in my pajamas in the morning, 360 degrees, totally around my house in comfort. No wet toes from walking in the grass. And this perimeter of the house on a new home builder, I would seriously consider how you do your landscaping plans, because I don't know what cost we have in this. I'm sure it's about half the cost since we did most of the work ourselves. But if I'd take a number that it costs $5,000, something in that range, for all the 5 loads of cement and the crew that came in here. But is it worth $5,000 if you're going to live in a house for 20 or 30 years to have this nice sidewalks around it? No maintenance, absolutely no maintenance compared to excessive maintenance. I think it's well worth every penny of that to do the concrete jobs.